the whole thing was done in 15 minutes, and I got to go to bed on time last night, and it was amazing. And I was like, wow. And for me, that's like, when I think about government services delivery in a lot of different ways, I call it my like California DMV problem. I still have my maiden name on my California driver's license because I refuse to go through the process, and I've been married for 11 years now. like there's all these things, like drugs can get through faster because they're going to be using these tools to do the regulatory processes and red tape. So anyway, I'm very excited about that. Those are my things. With that, throwing it open to the crowd. I don't know if we have a mic, but
actually we do.
Yeah.
My phone has a mic.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can use
Here.
this, and then you guys
Yeah.
can pass it.
Why don't you
around.
start and
No.
Hi, I have a couple questions. One is, I was curious about like how international interest has developed and how that's affecting the landscape here. Just walking close to where I live, the Japanese government has opened an innovation campus, and there's another company, Japanese company, that has been looking to invest in various companies, and there's like, you know, other places are working on their own models, like China and other things. So I was curious about what you guys have seen in that respect. And then the other one was, you mentioned social media. I've noticed on just going through like Reddit, like ChatGPT, Reddit and things, people are really using this tool like a therapist, and they're getting so close emotionally to this tool. And I have some concerns about that. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, these models hallucinate, or sometimes there's been models that have been, for example, you know, been trained to say that Tiananmen Square never happened and it's all fake. So those I was curious about, like, what can be done to help mitigate those issues that might come up.
I'm happy to talk internationally. I mean, there's so many ways I can go with that. I mean, I think in general, I do government relations. Most of my work is international work. There's nobody that's not talking about it, and they're talking about it in a wide variety of ways. Everything from like, how should we regulate it? How should we not regulate it? Economies are going to change. Are we going to be left behind? Do we want to be left behind? I don't know. I think most economies are trying to be at the forefront of this. I think there's also a lot of conversation about the geopolitics of AI. Everything from the energy that's necessary to build data centers to power frontier models. Who gets chips? Who doesn't get chips? Who controls who gets chips? You know, data centers closer to users actually make the AI run faster, and that is a thing. Like, I'm sure if we have power users in the room, you probably have gotten to a point where you're having a conversation with one of the frontier model provider apps, and it says you're out of compute. And so these are like real issues that are at the forefront of, I think, policymakers' minds every day. Again, I haven't watched the State of the Union, but I can't imagine that AI was not talked about tonight in probably both the domestic economy conversation as well as the international politics conversation. And then I think there's also like a broader conversation about competitiveness in who builds models. And I think, you know, there are, you know, many in Europe are saying, well, small models are really great and we should build them domestically. And then others are saying, well, guess what? The Americans have won, are on the frontier of sort of winning, you know, large language model development. But what we really need to make sure is that our businesses of all sizes are adopting, so that we can be at the forefront of sort of the economic gains from implementing AI into our businesses. And so that's like a very wide-ranging answer, but I think that most governments are paying attention, and I think the smaller governments, you know, primarily in the global south, but in other places too, are sort of saying, like, how do we make sure that we are recipients of the gains of this and that we don't get left behind? And I think that is a real question, but I also question a lot of sort of the assumptions around that. So I think if you like geopolitics, come to AI. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it's quickly, as far as I know, the 4 biggest banks in the world are now Chinese. Like JP Morgan Chase is number 5. The Chinese are throwing a lot of money at this. They have a lot of universities, they have a lot of students, they have set up a lot of labs. And DeepSeek, for those of you who are familiar with it, DeepSeek is partly the result of that. The Biden administration, along with Congress, I think you know better than I do, they restricted the types of NVIDIA chips that they could have in order trying to slow them down. But they used the old NVIDIA chips to do DeepSeek. Okay, so, I think we're in for, a real tango, okay, an international tango with these AI companies, and the competition is very, very fierce, which is gonna make things go faster. The other thing I think to think about that we haven't talked about is quantum computing. Computing very quickly, supercomputers, even the fastest supercomputers, they still have, 1 and 0. They still have to research each and every answer one by one. And they can do it fast, but they still have to do it that way. With those are bits. With qubits, it can be 1 and 0 at the same time. So literally, a quantum computer that's working can understand what the answer is and research all of the possible answers all at once, simultaneously. Now, you combine that with something like AI and the ability to really accelerate medical process, right? Like medical research, and cures, like research and development, what have you. That is coming online. Those 2 forces will come together by 2035. We have someone who disagrees. What do you say, sir? What do you get?
Quantum computing might not happen in our lifetime. It's a very nascent thing, and there's a lot of smoke out there about what's real.
It is, yes. Quantum computing is definitely dicey, super unstable. You have to keep it super, super cold, like colder than space. Yeah, it's buggy, but they're making progress, and we'll see. But as those forces potentially, and it might take longer. Video and gaming convergence took a lot longer than people thought it would, but we got there. But that's something I think to keep an eye on, and there's also a lot of competition there as well.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for your comments. My name is Mary Jean. I went to Georgetown many years ago, School of Foreign Service, but I've worked into industries, commercial real estate, and then 10 years ago I pitched venture capital for an ed tech company, both of which are very old school, old boy network. You gotta know someone to get somewhere. So my question relates to social capital. So how can AI be used to find and assess the social capital? So I don't need to rely on him introducing me to his buddy in Woodside that then I get funded. Maybe there's someone over in Spain that funds me, right? That opened up the opportunity, or this guy introduced me to his buddy who buys the building, because that's literally how both worlds work right now, I think. So my question is, do either of you or any of you know any AI social capital app or process that allows people to find those people more than writing 5,000 emails and going through LinkedIn? That's my question about social capital.
Yeah, I can give a quick example. I don't know if it's on. Yeah.
So quickly, we did a lot of research and talking to experts for the fundraising part of AI for nonprofits. And one of the things that we saw, the innovations are, right now, there are some big foundations, Kellogg, MacArthur, Ford, that are real ripe whale targets, right? But there are lots of foundations. There are lots of funders. What's great about a Claude or a ChatGPT or even a Change Agent AI is that now you can actually literally just ask the tool, hey, here's my project, here's what we're trying to fund. Go out and find all of the foundations and angel donors and angel funders who are interested in this. And then analyze their annual reports so that I can write my grant in the language and in the style that's most likely to get me a grant from my top 25 that I've identified. That's new. The ability to not spend hours, maybe years, trying to discover all of that, to be literally able to research